Okay, let's talk about the HISET exam and three study tips that you really do need to know before you start your endeavor here on the HISET. For most of you out there, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you're interested in the HISET. You already know that it is a high school equivalency exam. So those of you out there who don't know, it's very much like the GED or the TASC exam. It's given in certain states, but basically they're very much alike. They're pretty equivalent in a sense that there are it's a high school equivalency exam. So you have to really put some serious effort into studying for these exams. So you really want to make sure that you have a good sense of how you're going to approach them. And that's what I'm going to talk to you about in this particular video. Now, before we get going, I'm going to go over three things here. Three tips. If you're struggling with HISET math, you can check out the link in the description and below this video. At the end of the video is my HISET math course. So if you need help with HISET math specifically, then you may be interested in my course if you like my teaching style. But with that being said, let's get right into it. So the first tip you need to know is, what are you studying from? So you might have thought that I was going to give you some study tip like, hey, take better notes, etc., etc. Listen, let's even back it up further than that. Okay, when you're studying for the HISET, you need to have study material, right? Or you're going to be taking a class, or you're going to be doing something or the other. You need to really assess, what are you studying from? Okay, is it a book? If it's a book, is it an outdated book? Is it a good book? Are you understanding it? Did someone give it to you? I mean, you really have to kind of stop and consider, your study material, because this is what you're relying on. In terms of passing. Now, some of you might say, "Well, I don't have any study material. I'm just watching a bunch of YouTube videos or going online," and that's actually not such a that's not a terrible idea. But the problem with that is you don't really have a kind of central place you can go, or you might be overwhelmed with too many different places or forms and whatnot. So you really want to ask yourself, how do you learn best? Do you learn best by being in a class? Do you learn best by video? Do you learn best by, do you do well by just reading the book? So ask these questions and get yourself the appropriate study material, because this video is obviously about how to study, okay? And the whole idea is to get you to pass this HISET exam in as short as amount of time as possible and do well, right? And actually learn something. So all study material is not the same, okay? It might work for some people. It's like a teacher, okay? Let's say, like, here's a classroom and you have a particular teacher, okay? This teacher might be able to, there's some students in here that might learn well from this teacher, but you may not be able to learn well from this teacher, okay? So just because other people, did fine, and this goes, if you have friends out there or you're on social media, people recommend certain things, got to take that with a little bit of grain of salt. It's got to work for you, okay? So it's really, really important for you to figure out what you're studying from. Now, if you are in maybe a class, or if you're using a particular book, or you don't even have a plan right now, and you're struggling, then I would say just stop studying and go get yourself, do some research on some material for those different sections that you can trust, that you like, and you understand from. Okay, that's a huge thing, right? Because if you're trying to study from a bad program, guess what? You're going to get frustrated. It's going to take a lot longer. You still can likely learn, and likely pass, but it may take you 4 or 5 times longer, than it needed to be. You follow what I'm saying? So, first study tip for you is, what are you studying from? Make sure it's good material for you. All right, let's move on to the second thing here, and that is get organized. So once you feel like you have a good program, okay, or a hybrid program. Maybe you're doing a textbook for some of the sections, and maybe you're taking a math class like the one I offer for math, or learning math, at an adult education center, whatever. You could still have a hybrid program, but that's fine. But once you have your program designed, then you really want to get organized with that program. So do I mean by that? Well, organization to me it comes down to kind of three different ways. One is you got to get your time organized, okay? Like if you're trying to pass the HISET, there's a lot to learn. So if you're not organized with your schedule, or you're not making it a priority to study, if you're kind of like all over the place, then you're not going to do well. Even if you have good study material, you need consistency. So you got to get your life organized, your time organized, okay? The second thing I would suggest you really need to get organized is your notes. Note taking is critical in learning. Okay, it helps with retention. It's really a top thing you need to do when you're learning math. Okay, so if you're not organized in terms of your note taking, then you're going to have a lot of problems. Okay, it's going to make things go a lot easier for you, and that would include things like flashcards or things along those lines. Okay, so you need to get your time organized. You need to get your notes organized, and lastly, I would say you need to get your thinking organized. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, you need to get all the distractions out of your life, all right? Mental distractions. Maybe things that come from the news or social media or anything that can take away from you focusing on your goal. Okay, you got to put the focus on yourself when you're doing this exam. Okay, so what are you thinking about? Are there things there are kind of like distraction or like unnecessary drama that's going on in your life? You really got to clean those things up. Okay, so you got to get your thinking organized. You got to get your time organized, and you got to get your notes, your system. You got to take notes. You got to have good, reference material. Really critical, okay, in terms of studying. All right, so let's talk about this last tip, and that is get support. Okay, so once you get good material, a good program to study from, you got yourself organized, you're doing well. This right here could likely, between those two tips right there, you could likely even pass this exam on your own. Okay, I'm certain that you could. But if you want to go further, faster, it's always good to have a mentor. Get some support. Okay, so like for example, if you have access to a teacher, okay, or a tutor, use them. Okay, if you know someone who can help you out, you could study with a study partner, something along those lines. Even come to YouTube, watching maybe some of my videos. That's a form of support. But you don't want to just go solo. You just don't want to be all by yourself, especially when there's so much support out there that you can easily access. So get support. Okay, if you're in check out your local school districts if you have that, an adult education center. There's all kinds of programs, tutoring, access to teachers you may not everybody necessarily can access. Some can maybe access easier than some, but there is a lot of support out there if you find it. So getting support is going to help you stay motivated. It's going to help you, um, you know, learn quicker. All those, and you're going to get around like-minded people too, because whoever's supporting you has your best interest in mind. They're like, hey, we want you to pass. Especially if they're some sort of adult education teacher or whatnot. Okay, so if you're doing these three things, okay, the first thing obviously is to make sure you have the right program in mind for yourself. And if you're keeping yourself organized, you're keeping that support going, you're finding that support, you're going to pass the HISET. And I'm going to say this, I say this in all my videos here. If you follow me on YouTube, I do a lot of videos about the GED, HISET task, and other tests as well. Obviously, my background's a math teacher, but I've done other things in my life outside of education that were difficult. And I can tell you right now, you can achieve this goal. I don't care where your starting point is from. I don't care if you dropped out in the fifth grade, okay? or you're 70 years old. I've seen extraordinary things happen to people who want to go back to school and get these get their high school equivalency. Okay, but just for personal testimonials that I've received, I've seen like, wow, people can really we can do so much more than we think we can, and I'm talking to myself as well. So don't, you got to make sure you don't have limited thinking. You're not so overly intimidated by this because you can get your HISET, and if you follow a good strategy, if you approach it in a smart, intelligent way, you're going to go further faster. And that's why, and I'm really, I do these videos because I want to give you tips that I know are going to help you. I'd say if there's one thing here that I would emphasize probably out of all of these, it's this one right here. That's your thinking. You got to get your thinking right, okay? You can't have limited thoughts. You can't be like, I'm not so sure I can pass this, or I'm like, I don't know if I can really do this, or I'm not smart enough, or I'm not good enough, or why didn't I do this 15 years ago, or whatever the case is. If your mind is in this loop, you got to get control of your thinking. That's going to be too detrimental. Our minds, listen, they're wonderful, powerful tools. They can help us a lot. Our minds can help us, but they can also hurt us. Our thinking, our negative thinking it's like our worst enemy. Okay. Oftentimes our best friend is our positive thoughts, that our self-image, if we keep ourselves motivated. But oftentimes we are the ones that defeat our own self. And we do it without even giving ourselves a shot. And I'm just telling you right now, you can pass this exam. Okay. And even if it takes you 2 or 3 times, who cares? Okay. It's too important in an exam. Your high school equivalency is too important for you not to get it. But if you approach this correctly and you start with good thinking, healthy thinking, and if you've seen other videos of mine, I talk about what are you surrounding yourself with? Do you have a good mental, network? Or, are you watching, too much negative news, too much junk TV? Are you, too involved in drama, social media? Or if those things, you need to give that a break if you're trying to achieve something like this. But anyways, with that being said, you follow this general plan, you're going to be successful. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. So if this is the first time you've seen one of my videos, I hope you will consider subscribing to my channel. And I do a ton of videos like this. And believe me when I tell you, I try to do high quality videos because I know what I'm talking about, not because I'm making this stuff up, because I've helped countless students through the years achieve. Okay, so I want to pass on lessons learned. So like anything else, this is experience talking. Okay, so I hope you consider following me on YouTube, and if you do so, make sure you hit that bell notification. And if you like this video, maybe give it a thumbs up and leave me some feedback. I get a lot of comments on my videos, which I'm grateful for. I try to read as many of these comments because that helps me figure out how to get better and maybe create some videos that that can help you out in the future. But with that being said, I do appreciate your time. I wish you all the best with the HISET, and have a great day.